All right, what's up, guys? We are back with another podcast episode. That was one of the longest droughts we've had in a minute. That was like 2 weeks.
Dude, are we even going to know how to do this again?
Well, we already almost didn't hit record on the audio recorder, and I almost didn't plug my microphone in on both ends.
I was going to say, not only on the actual mic, but also into the recorder.
Yeah, so if this pod makes it out without any issues, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah, seriously, we are rusty.
Yeah, but anyways, glad to be back, guys. Back from China. Have a lot of stories to tell about the 6-0 factory tour, and then there's just a ton of paddles, so we're going to kind of try and blow through all of this. But first update we got to give, the home court, it's done. It's awesome. It is playable. We've used it. We filmed a video on it.
It's incredible. It's everything we dreamed of.
I still can't believe it's done.
And you know how we're rewarded? Minnesota gives us more rain.
Yeah. For context, guys, I don't think you understand the amount of rain we have gotten over the last month. I have, in the entire time I've lived here, now granted, who knows the first 10 years, because I'm not going to remember anything because I was too young, but I have never seen this much rain in June in my entire life.
This is the most rain, period, I've ever seen in a summer.
Yeah.
And we're only in June.
And it's not even that it's heavy rain, it's just that it's wet.
It's
so you can't play.
Yeah, it's just constant. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we might get a break for like a day, and then we get another back-to-back days of rain. It's insane.
Yeah, so it's pretty wild. But the court's done. Now when weather clears up, we can actually use it. Yesterday was the first time we tried this, and it was awesome. We filmed, edited, and uploaded the SLK Aero first impressions. So things like that should be able to get out a lot easier now, assuming weather cooperates and we have the court to use. But yeah, life is going to be a lot easier for paddle content.
Dude, for filming a review of a paddle, we can just film A-roll in the morning, shoot the B-roll on the court, invite people over to play, and then edit, and we're done.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
It's crazy. So
I forgot to bring it in here. I had talked about this in the Aero video, but I had these old backdrops I used to use for filming, and I was just saying in the video, basically, like, it is crazy that this was started in an apartment that was tiny. I mean, it was, when I would set up lights, camera, everything, my office was destroyed. There was no space to walk.
The whole living room was filled. I mean, I remember Will has a video when he came into your place, you had a paddle on top of a shoebox with lights all around it. Like, it's just hilarious.
I was actually trying to find that video, so now I know that Will has it. I need to go ask him for it.
Yeah, Will's the one who has it.
Yeah, because I wanted that. But yeah, it's insane. I mean, now in a house with like a full studio to film things in, a backyard with a pickleball court. So everyone who's watched the videos, thank you. It is crazy to me that this has gotten where it is, and we're very grateful. So
never thought it'd be like this.
Yeah, so get ready for a lot of paddle content this summer because it's going to be great. All right, first thing we got to talk about, I don't know if you saw this news. We saw it while we were in China, and I couldn't believe it. The Pro Kennex Black Ace will be relisted July 1st, not delisted. So it's not going anywhere. And I'm going to read the announcement really quick because I just thought this whole announcement was kind of interesting.
All right.
We're announcing today that based on new testing, USA Pickleball has reversed its decision to delist the 11mm Black Ace LG, which is the long handle one that Daniel De La Rosa uses, which had previously been scheduled for removal from certification on July 1st, 2025. As of today, June 3rd, 2025, the Black Ace LG is fully certified, having successfully passed all testing requirements, including PB Core. Accordingly, all tournaments and associations that rely on USAP for paddle eligibility should note that this model is now and will continue to be fully legal for competition. Pro Kennex's Black Ace 11mm line was first certified as legal in June 2022, before the introduction of the PB Core standard in 2024. Since certification, Pro Kennex has not tampered with the specifications, nor has it modified the Black Ace paddles to achieve accelerated velocity, namely by engineering a trampoline effect, as observed in other brands that introduced models in late 2023 and 2024. Although Pro Kennex has not tampered with or modified other 11mm paddles, either the Black Ace Pro, Black Ace Ovation, and Black Ace XF, their status will remain unchanged and will be delisted on July 1st, 2025. And then it says the Black Ace 11mm line derives its power from build quality and its 11mm profile. In essence, this combination results in an elevated, more efficient energy transfer. Both Kennex and USAP emphasize this distinction from other engineering strategies and modifications. The original delisting notice, which included other brands and models, referred to engineered trampoline effects for the purpose of adding velocity and for which PB core testing is meant to limit. The description in that notice should not be associated with Kennex. Okay, before you say anything, I just have a few things I want to say about this.
Yep.
First of all, I'm just confused. Basically, they're like, okay, so this failed PB core at one point, I would imagine is why it was going to be delisted. Surely it had to be PB core. Now they're like, nothing changed. Kennex touched nothing. And it's now going to be relisted, but all the other ones that also did not change will still be delisted. So does only the LG pass and the other ones don't pass? Did Kennex, for whatever reason, decide not to relist the other ones, which doesn't make sense? And then even more interesting is that they continually talk about, basically, we're trying to eliminate trampoline paddles. This paddle doesn't have a trampoline, so it's fine. But I'm like, I don't think it matters whether it has a trampoline effect or not when we have PB core.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just saw this and was like, I was in China with the rest of the reviewers and we were all going like, I don't get it.
Makes zero sense. I don't get why it just makes them look worse.
I'm just confused, I guess. I don't.
Same. What changed? What changed and why?
Yeah, like why now?
Yeah, exactly. If you already decided it's getting delisted, you did all this testing, what made you go back around the circle, test it again, or do whatever you did to change your mind and be like, well, this one's okay.
Yeah.
Why? That makes zero sense to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, so that's really weird. So for the, probably 5 people out there that loved this paddle, it's back.
Hey man, there's a lot of, here in Minnesota, the amount of older ladies that use that thing all over the place.
Well, I have gotten emails, people saying, hey, I need a replacement for this paddle because now I can't use it. So
yeah, man.
Now you can use it again.
All right. Well, specifically just that one, though.
Yeah,
None of the other
LG.
ones. None of the other ones.
If you like the short handle one, sorry, can't use it.
Yeah, or that weird oval-shaped one.
Yeah. So very odd, but yeah, it's back. And then the other interesting thing, so there was a rumor floating around on Facebook that Adidas and Fed had separated, but it was just a rumor, wasn't confirmed. And then the PPA that's going on in San Clemente right now, Fed is decked out in Yola gear, and he's also using a Scorpius, what appears to be the 16 millimeter.
Pro 4.
I believe, yeah, Pro 4. So he's back to Yola, baby.
Dude.
Yola hasn't made an announcement that says he's officially back, but I have to imagine if he's wearing Yola gear, he's back.
We all knew he was never actually going to use an Adidas paddle. Was this the longest April Fool's joke of all time?
Yeah.
Like, what?
That was crazy. I'd love to know more about what it was, if like Fed was too picky and they just couldn't get a paddle for him that he was happy with, or if Fed was basically like, look, I need these paddles to win and I'm not going to use something else, in which case, yeah, it makes sense for both of them to probably part ways because that makes both parties look kind of weird. But yeah, that was not long-lived.
I'm sure Fed is probably a bit more picky than a lot of pros, but this just goes to show for everyone out there, just like know what you're getting into before you sign a contract. Like It's just so funny.
Yeah.
Like, they had a whole line, they had a whole special paddle for him, signature paddle, all this stuff, and it just ceases to exist now because Fed isn't going to use it.
Yeah. It's really bizarre. And I'd love to know how the internal conversations kind of went there. What happened to lead to that? And then Fed going back to Yola, I'm curious if they were sitting there going, oh, yeah, obviously, welcome back. You're top guy. We want you on the team.
Your contract is cut in half.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now you get this much. You get a quarter of what you used to get.
Like, we have the negotiating power now. Because if you're Yola, you're going, yeah, you used our paddle the entire time you were with another brand. We have all the power here.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe there was no malice there and no one cared, but
I don't know, man. I mean, I'm sure they're happy to have him back using their paddle, but even when he was technically signed with another company, he was still using their paddle. So Yola probably loved this whole thing.
Oh, you couldn't ask for better marketing.
Yeah.
It's like the best of the best that you could ask
marketing
for.
Budget, throw it out the window. They don't need it. It's all free.
Yeah,
free marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Oh, pretty crazy.
I'd love to sit down and just talk with him and be like, all right, please start to beginning. Explain this whole situation.
I I'm very curious what made him use a wide body for this tournament. If that was out of he didn't have other options available, which seems unlikely, or if there's a reason he suddenly started wanting. He used it in the past.
Yeah,
but
he's used a Scorpius, but it was the 14, the Anna Bright 14 in the past. So I don't know. We'll see if he continues to use it. I feel like he does not like change, clearly. He didn't like the Lifetime ball. He didn't like any Adidas paddle that ever existed, which who does? So why switch to the Scorpius now when you've been winning with the Perseus?
Yeah.
Seems weird.
Yeah, kind of odd. Maybe, I guess we'll see next tournament if he's still using it or not.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the update on Fed. And then the last thing we have for updates before we get into the China trip is there is a flood of paddles coming this summer. And I'm sure there are going to be even more that I am not aware of or that I missed, but I tried to get everything. So the PaddleTech GTO C looks like it is coming out June 30th. That'll be the hybrid paddle. And then after that, we have the J2 NF and FC Plus in July. That's around, I think the NF is around July 13th, and then the rest are all shipping late July. You can pre-order those now. Grooven has their foam core paddles, which are shipping July 22nd. Those will also be currently the cheapest foam core option, so those will be $179 before a discount code. And then after that, we have the Body Helix TerraCore XC, which is another foam core paddle, which we will probably have quite a bit more to say about at some point. But that's July 15th, will be $190. Sometime in July, the 11624 Alpha Pro Power. Sometime in July, the Bread and Butter Wild Thing. And then these ones didn't have dates, but I have to imagine it's July or August. The Friday Fever Wide Body. Vatic Pro just announced that they have new paddles coming this summer. And then Avora just did hybrid and elongated shaped paddles. So a lot coming this summer.
That is a lot.
And so it's going to be pretty crazy. There's a lot of good paddles in this list. I mean, just looking at this, like...
What's the price of the NF?
It is $195 before code.
Okay. All right.
$175 after.
Sub 200?
Yeah. So now we're starting to see, we had all the premium foam core paddles, high price. Now we kind of what always happens is everyone's...
Trickles down.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm curious how low it'll go.
And if only the NF came in a good shape.
It sounds like they're working on more. Sounds like they're working on more. So might not be long till the elongated's out. All right. So those are the paddles. Let's talk about the 6-0 trip.
Yeah. Tell me all about it.
Went to China. Avoided jet lag both ways.
Nice.
On the way there and home. If any of you guys are going to do international travel, I highly recommend the app Time Shifter. I found this and I was very skeptical that it would work, but it worked perfect. On the way there, I followed it to a T. Exactly what it told, how late it told me to stay up, sunlight, all of that worked great. On the way back home, wasn't so much the app. I was so exhausted at that point that I just said, I'm going to sleep when I feel like sleeping. And thankfully, it just happened to align. But there was no point where there was jet lag. I think the only thing is I was waking up a little bit earlier in China than I would probably typically. It was probably 5:30, 6 a.m. And here I was pretty much back to 8 a.m. immediately.
Nice.
So yeah, that part was great. I was very thankful to have dodged the jet lag because I hear how terrible that can be.
Oh, dude, that would just make the whole trip so bad.
Yeah, it would be so much more rough with jet lag. So the factory, for those of you who missed it, we've talked about this a little bit in previous pods, but 6-0 invited a handful of creators out to go and see their paddle factory just so we could kind of see what they've been up to as well as the how a paddle is made, which was, I think at this point I had a pretty clear picture, but there was definitely small things seeing in person that I either didn't know about or was like, oh, that's a extra little step that's just kind of interesting to see it in person. You kind of piece things together a little bit better. But the first thing is when we got there, I really wish I had been rolling my camera for this. When I make the actual video, I might have to see if I can get it from David from Tickle My Pickleball. But so first of all, they had a literal red carpet that went like all the way up these stairs, which was far overkill. They did not need to do that. But then it gets even more overkill. So Braden and I are the first two going up. We're like a little bit ahead of the group. And we see that they have these like confetti popper cannons. So before everyone else makes it up, they like popped them. And so we just see confetti raining everywhere, but everyone else was still a stairwell below. So all they hear is pop, pop. And everyone was like, did they just shoot Chris and Brady? Like, it just sounded like a gunshot going off. Like, oh no, Dale took out Chris and Brady.
This is the whole plan all along.
Yeah.
Bring them here to hunt them down.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really funny. David did get a small video of that, of some of the confetti coming down. But it was crazy. They had like bouquets of flowers they were handing us. They were like having us sign this board that, you know, factory and factory workers or whatever. I was just sitting there going, we're not this big of a deal. We do not deserve this big of a celebration.
Hey, apparently you are, though.
Definitely not. That was so far above and beyond what it needed it to be. It was very nice of them. I'm not mad about it, but it was just like, save it for like a real celebrity, you know?
Lots and lots and lots of food.
Oh, dude. Yeah. They fed us. We're going to get to it even more later, but the amount of food, I could have skipped full days of eating and still not been hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they were ordering food, because we weren't really ordering, they kind of just ordered it, you know, like Chinese style, where you just share a bunch of food, and everyone would be full and dishes would just keep coming.
Well, you know, like, so Chinese culture and food, but when you want them to stop bringing you food is you leave food on your plate.
Yeah, that didn't work here.
Really?
No. The food just kept coming.
Interesting.
Because trust me, there was food on the plate.
They just kept bringing food.
Yeah.
See, that's like my dream come true. I would be eating so much food.
Yeah, I legitimately don't think in any period of my life, in a week period, have I eaten that much food. It was so much food. It was all very good. I loved the food.
I laughed when I saw it was either your story or someone else's story was there. Like when you guys got to the factory, they catered KFC for you guys, which I just thought was hilarious. But like, our type of fast food here is apparently like really fancy food over in China. So it makes sense.
KFC was nice there.
Yeah.
They need to bring whatever they got over there, they got to bring it back here.
Yeah,
They had
seriously.
pizza at that KFC.
Oh,
and
dang.
it was good.
Dude, that food looked really good.
It was really solid. The egg tart that they had there was also very good.
Oh, man.
Definitely can't complain. They kept us very well fed. We kept joking that it was like they were trying to fatten us up like a pig just to like slaughter us later. Because it's like, dude, please, I can't eat anymore. I cannot. So, all right, that was the introduction there. When we got there, we did a whole, basically, Dale gave us kind of their background about here's what we've been up to, here's why we've been quiet, here's the R&D that we've been working on, which we'll come back to. And then after that, we got to go and tour the factory. So there's a few observations that I thought were interesting. Going in, I think I had some ideas of what the factory would look like, but maybe not a full picture. So the first couple things I noticed, one, it was actually smaller than I expected. It wasn't tiny, but I think I was picturing like a giant, like
Just Selkirk warehouse size.
like bigger.
Big. Okay.
You know, like just almost, you know, the Selkirk shipping warehouse we went to?
Yeah, that's...
I was thinking like that size. It was not that size.
Okay.
There was still quite a bit going on, but not the scale of that.
Sure.
So I thought that was interesting. The second observation is that it was significantly cleaner than I expected. I think whenever people think of, or at least me, I can't say everyone, when I think of a factory in China, I think it's probably pretty dirty. The working conditions aren't great. It's just kind of like things are sloppy, or like it's like beaten down floors and like metal beams everywhere or whatever. And it was very clean, like white, clean rooms, like air conditioned. It was pretty nice. The only room that was maybe less nice, but I don't even really know how you would make it nice, was where they had all the ovens for the thermoforming. It's just hot in there because there's ovens cooking paddles.
Yep.
You know, they had giant fans that were like taking the hot air out of the window, but that was the only room that was like not super white clean. But the other rooms, I was like, oh wow, this is way cleaner than I thought it would be. So that was kind of interesting. But yeah, it's definitely was not like some child labor sweatshop. You know, it was all like full grown adults there. There was no children.
That's
working.
just what they wanted you to see.
Yeah. And it was like, I think about 30 to 40 people that were working there.
Okay.
So again, you know, it's not hundreds or something. It's 30 to 40 people. Got to see pretty much everyone there, chat with a couple of them. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
But the other thing that I noticed was the attention to detail on a lot of things seemed taken pretty seriously. And I'd be very curious to see other factories now and what their standards are, because talking to the owner of that factory, it definitely sounds like there's A, B, C, and F tier factories, right?
Sure.
There are some that take things really seriously in how they do it, and others that are like, they don't really know what they're doing. Kind of just like everything, right? You could have a good concrete contractor, you could have a bad one. Same thing with the factories. They're not all...
I'm just imagining them talking about each other behind their back, like, that factory?
Yeah.
Yo, they're terrible. Oh, no, those guys way overpriced. Don't go to them.
Well, what it felt like to me was exactly what the paddle brands are, but with factories.
That makes sense.
It seemed like there was a little bit of that, maybe.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, yeah. So as far as the like QC, one of the things I saw them doing was when they were cutting out the shapes of the paddles out of the polymer honeycomb, they would take each of the cores that they had done, and they had a caliper, and they would measure the whole way down to make sure it was uniform. And I'm assuming that if one is not past a certain threshold or it's too big, they then throw it out.
Yep.
So it was fun seeing them measure literally all of them and then say, hey, these are good, pass them off. And there were multiple checkpoints kind of along the way to try and catch if there were issues. They were weighing paddles at different stages, and they were saying if a paddle is past a certain threshold, they throw it out, or do something else with it.
I would love to see how many factories go that in-depth and detailed for QC, because, I mean, I can think of a few paddle brands that are known for having compressed cores or core crushing issues, and a lot of them come from similar, if not same factories.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to see if that factory, I'm assuming they're probably, just based on what we know of these paddles, they're probably not going or having that many steps of checking.
Yeah. And that's why I would love to see some of these other ones and see, like, what does a F tier factory look like compared to an A tier?
Right.
And then just other small things, like I said, they were the multiple checkpoints along the way. Then when they were cleaning the molds, they seemed to be being very thorough. They were like blowing compressed air in it, like scraping things out of it, wiping it down, because anything that's in the mold is going to press into your paddle and dent it or damage it.
Yep.
So I thought that was cool to see. And then after that, we did also go get to see a carbon fiber factory where 60 sources their sheets from. That was also very cool to see, because I think it kind of reinforced to me that 60 is trying to do things more properly, or it's not just, okay, that supplier gives us this, it's good. Like, they were going to this factory to talk to them about like doing certain things, and some of the new technologies that they're working on, they're working directly with some of these suppliers so that they can produce it the way that they're looking for, instead of just saying, yeah, give us whatever you got. And it was really cool to see the cloth factory. One of the machines they had, it's just very interesting to see the carbon fiber sheet come together, because they had all these spools of carbon fiber, and it was basically a machine that was just feeding all these like individual strands into one sheet. And then when at the end, it's all pressed together and you get the final sheet. But like, there were so many layers coming together. I'll have to show you a clip later, but it was...
I saw it on...
you did see it,
yeah, I saw it. Somebody posted on their story and I saw it.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah.
And so the scale of the carbon fiber factory was probably more what I was expecting from a paddle factory. Mm-hmm. The guy who...
That makes sense, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're producing not just for paddles.
As
they're
it's
doing
produced
all
for
sorts.
all kinds of different industries, so they have to make way more at higher quantities.
Yep. So that was really cool. They also gave us a presentation just about their background, how long they've been around.
Nice.
Thought that was pretty cool to see. I don't know, even just seeing how the resin was done and all of that, it was very cool to see, and that they had kind of gone out and been like, yeah, we're going to go these extra steps. Because I have to imagine there are plenty of factories that say, yep, we get fiberglass from over there because it's cheap. Get carbon fiber over here because it's cheap. And I don't think cheap always means bad, right? One of the things I think us on the trip we're talking about is just because you source a higher quality carbon fiber or a higher quality fiberglass or whatever doesn't necessarily mean the paddle's going to play that much better, or maybe in some cases maybe even be that durable. But I think what it was nice to see is that there was intentionality behind the decisions. Instead of basically being fed a thing, it was saying, we chose this because of X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're working with this. So thought that was kind of cool.
I mean, that definitely, I can't say that, but it might not always be true for all factories, right? Like, there's A, B, C, whatever factories. Like, clearly 60, they seem to be on top of their things with their factories. They're very in touch with their factory. They keep check on things. But I hear constantly from other companies that, like, factories are cutting corners behind their back, trying to like, oh, they ran out of this glue. They need this type of glue. Oh, well, now we use this one that's cheaper, not as good, just because they didn't want to have to source the other one. So it just seems like 6-0's kind of on top of their factory and making sure everything's in check, where that does not always seem to be the case with other factories.
Totally. And I imagine there are other companies and factories that are taking these steps as well. So I'm sure they're not the only one, but it was cool to see it firsthand.
Yeah.
And kind of understand. Let's see what else in here. Oh, talking to the factory owner, I can't remember how this, I don't remember the exact number they gave, but I think I said something along the lines of, so how many factories do you think there are at this point? Like maybe 10, 15? And he just laughed and he was like, no. He's like, way more than that. So again, if you're talking, let's just say there's 50 to 75 other factories producing paddles. That's a lot of variance across the industry you could see.
Yeah.
In terms of components.
Did anyone at any time bring up the whole Alibaba paddle market?
It got brought up in that there were just like, I guess, like ways it can impact the industry. Like I think 6-0 has people on their team that are trying to make sure that their stuff isn't being duped like that.
But the triple black diamond one that was going around. That one was really bad.
I actually told him about that.
What was his reaction?
I think he just kind of laughed.
It is what it is. You can't do anything about it.
I think, at a certain point, it's just kind of like...
Because I'm just imagining, okay, 6-0's factory. They're clearly a higher end factory, very in touch with things. They're very high quality. All these Alibaba paddles cannot be being made at factories like this.
That I'm glad you brought that up, because that was 6-0 is not the only brand in this factory. Though it was interesting talking about it. It sounded like the owner of this factory basically split off and got this new building, and it sounded like the goal was for 6-0 to be the only one in there, but basically there wasn't enough demand. Like they couldn't keep the factory at full capacity the entire time, so they had to bring some other brands in to keep it up to capacity. And I'm completely blanking where I was going with that. What did you say just before that?
The Alibaba paddles being made at different factories.
It was very clear that there was no knockoffs being made in this factory. Like he talking to the factory owner, he was like, yeah, there are definitely factories that are just like their sole business is create counterfeits.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting to learn about.
Yeah, that makes sense. You've got the real brand factories, and then you've got sole like Alibaba knockoff AliExpress company factories.
Yep.
So that makes sense.
And it is funny because we have a guy here that buys, these Temu Alibaba paddles. And so I've gotten to see him a handful of times. And it's always interesting to see either what thing they skipped out on or if they're just trying to dupe you entirely. So that triple black diamond, it wasn't even the right shape. It didn't have real grit on it. It was smooth as glass.
Any grit. There was no peel ply.
Yeah.
It was actually just raw, the true sense of raw carbon fiber.
Yeah.
And it was smooth as glass.
Yeah.
So
it was bad.
Hilarious.
And he's had other ones. I think he bought a knockoff Pro 4. I think that one.
No, it was a knockoff mod.
Yep.
And then a knockoff True Foam.
And the True Foam.
The knockoff mod actually hit that thing hit hard.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it was probably core crushed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it had foam in it somewhere. So, if you didn't care about having a legal paddle and you just wanted to get a cheap whatever, some of them actually, are decent.
Yeah. For sure. For sure some of them are going to be decent.
I just think it's hilarious. I'd love to sit down and talk with the factory owner from their business's perspective and how they run things, because it's got to look so different from our side. Because if you think from the factory owner, okay, we got to get this company in here like 6-0, but there's probably more demand and they need to make more paddles for more companies. Having contracts with certain companies like, oh, we'll only make yours, or we're going to allow these guys, or how they manage that stuff and how many brands they let in. Like, okay, we can make paddles for 4 brands, and how they manage that stuff. I'm sure that's probably pretty interesting.
Well, and I imagine from factory owner to factory owner that there's probably different levels of caring about ethics. Talking to this guy, I don't know how much I can say about this guy's story. I don't know how much he wants out there, but he just has an interesting life story. Like, I think this guy would have been very cool to do an entire interview about, because I think it's what he's managed to do is very impressive and very cool. And similar to what you were saying, I imagine that some factories, it's just hey, this brand's been working on this. We'll go offer it to you over here. Whereas my impression of the factory that we were at is that this guy works very closely with each of the clients, and it doesn't seem like there's an intentional, hey, 60 is working on this. Do you want this? Like maybe when they come in, because other people have visited this factory, obviously I saw the other brand owners on the wall who had been there. And I'm sure that they see some of the stuff that's going on, right? There's only so big, there's only so much you can hide if they're in production. But it seemed like it was not hey, you might want this.
Yeah,
They've been
or like,
this.
they see a new potential client and they go, hey, we make paddles for so-and-so, so you should come to us. Like, that's kind of a scummy thing to do, and I'm sure nicer factories don't do that. Or as much. I don't know. I can't say.
Yeah, for sure.
Very interesting.
Yep. So, all right. Let's talk about some of the R&D. So I did get a message that they didn't want us to go into specifics about the stuff until it's launching, which
Makes
is understandable. But here's what I'll say. So from the R&D presentation, 60 has been quiet for a long time. I think there's been a lot of criticism about, one, their last like 3 or 4 releases really haven't been that hot. I mean, making 14 millimeter versions or making some edgeless paddles, it's like, okay, that's not really where the market's been headed. They've kind of had this refusal to make a Gen 3 paddle, so they kind of fell behind in that category. But you can tell, similar to what we learned with Selkirk, I feel like 60 is taking a very similar approach, where basically they've been laying the groundwork for the business, hiring people to take over certain things so that Dale can focus on other things, and then also trying to gather a lot of different data about how all these paddles work together in terms of PB core, these materials, and everything. So basically, you can tell they haven't been asleep. When he walked through this whole deck, it's like, okay, you've actually been doing a lot behind the scenes. And they probably should have released something in the meantime. I think we got to see a lot of prototypes, probably more than we really even needed to see. And I think some of them definitely should have been released at this point. And I think they probably would have done quite well. But you can tell they're very dead set on, we want to try and build these as best as possible with new processes in ways that other people aren't. Like, they showed us quite a few new technologies that I've not seen anyone try yet. And they're trying to solve some of the issues that I think people have complained about a lot. Like, one of them, which I think is fine to say, is they've been working on a newer grit texture, and the concept of it was very impressive. And this is a thing people have been complaining about. Grit wears out, grit wears out, grit wears out. Can we please fix this? And everyone's like, no one's putting any effort in. Well, they've been working on this for a while now, and it looks good. Yeah. Just like Selkirk has been with Infinigrit. And I think it's going to take, with any new texture, it needs to really be put through its paces. Probably needs to be in the market for about 6 months to a year before people really know how well it works. But my initial impression of this one was positive, and I really hope it works out, because, I mean, it's annoying replacing grit.
It is.
It
is. I mean, it's probably been one of the biggest pain points in the paddle market, is just grit texture wearing out so quickly. Because imagine your paddle is totally fine and intact and plays fine, but because it has no grit, now it feels practically useless.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, so props to them for working on that. I think there's probably a lot of brands that don't want to work on that, just given that they can get more paddle sales if the grit is worn down. So I hope that works for them. But even though it seems like, doing all of this work and getting all these new machines and investing in R&D has like cost them a lot in the short term, I have a feeling in the long term, it'll benefit them a lot. Similar to how I think it's going to go with Selkirk moving forward, where they had this big investment period. Let's keep our head down low, get everything figured out. And now we can really start building because we have everything kind of ready to roll out. That's the vibe I'm getting from 60. Because there was, like I said, multiple prototypes. There was one specifically that I pretty much didn't put down the entire trip. So
yeah,
it was very good.
All right.
They're also building a prototype lab in Australia. So they were getting a lot of the equipment that they're working with in China. They're going to have that in Australia now so they can prototype faster. So again, Selkirk vibes right there, right? And building their own little in-house lab.
I mean, that's going to be the direction that every big brand is going to have to go to, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be a big competitor in the paddle market, you're going to need to have your own testing equipment to be able to turn things around quicker, do R&D better, more efficiently. It's just like you can't do that without that equipment on hand.
Yeah, and it'll just make life a lot simpler. Like we were talking to Dale, and I think if I'm remembering the dates correctly, he's been in China every single month for a year now, or at least very close to a year, if not a full year. That's a long flight to do.
Dude's racking up the mile points.
I made that joke. I was like, dude, you've got to have status with your airline because it's a lot of flying.
It's a crazy amount of flying.
Yeah, so I'm sure it'll be a huge help for them to have that in-house.
Dang.
But yeah, I hope that they don't sit on some of the stuff they've been working on too long, because I think as we've learned in the pickleball industry, if you sit on something for too long, it moves so fast that it may not be as relevant at a later date. And then you combine that with how you end up pricing it, right? Like, look, right now, we are in a month where we're about to have 4, and probably within the next 3 months, way more awesome foam core paddles that are $100 cheaper than everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about, like, I look at it this way. The prime example is Carbon, right? Like, Carbon had us hit some prototypes with some paddles. We were like, this is insane. And then almost 2 years later, it finally gets released. Yeah. And then it was so hyped that it was a bit of a letdown to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then now, even though in my eyes, it's still one of the top full foam core paddles, it almost feels like it's starting to lag behind already with these new ones coming out.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, now you're going to have to release something new again. And if you wait too long, you get in the cycle of, oh, we're being left behind. And so I think I understand not wanting to release things quickly because it can be a nightmare, a customer service nightmare, and it can hurt your reputation, like Yola, you know? So I understand being patient, but there's a fine line, right?
Yeah.
Of like doing R&D, testing, waiting, making sure it's really good, but then you need to release something so you don't get forgotten about, right? So
I think this is a really interesting aspect of the pickleball industry, because I think there's two things that everyone wants. Everyone says no one's focusing on QC, better grit, durability, core crushing. Like, everyone's upset that these things are happening. But then when a brand does put a lot of time and effort into working on those things, and then they eventually release something, the thought becomes, you guys waited too long, there's cheaper options, we'll go buy that. So like, these two things are kind of at odds with each other, where everyone wants stuff really fast, but to achieve some of the things that people want, it also takes longer. So
everyone just wants both, right?
Yeah.
Everyone in the market's like, I want it cheap, new, fast, and better.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you can't really have all those things at once, guys. You got to pick one, right? We can just make new stuff really fast, but it might not be that durable, or we can wait a while, not get as many new products, but higher quality products, right? It's like, what do you want?
And I think at the end of the day, the unfortunate part about if you invest so much into R&D, I still think it will benefit them long term, and that will probably set them ahead of a lot of competitors in terms of how fast they'll be able to iterate in the future. But again, you could put all this time in, 18 months, 24 months, into making all of these awesome things and release it, and it was just too late. And that's just the unfortunate problem of this market.
After thinking about it, though, for a second, it's funny that you say that, and I agree with you, but it's weird how it's worked for some brands and not others, right?
Yeah.
Like, some brands have waited, or like just pumped out new things, and it's not the best. You have durability issues, you've had some problems. But then you've had companies like Paddletech that just released nothing for like 3 years, and then it instantly became one of the most popular paddles in the entire market.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And so it's like it worked for some brands, and it's not a great idea for others. And it's like, okay, well, why? You know, I'm curious to see, bringing up Paddletech, they've kind of rode this train of that one technology for a really long time. And what's after that? They're going to wait another 3 years till they come out with something new? Like, when's Paddletech going to come out with a foam core paddle?
If I had to, it'll be interesting to see how U.S. manufacturing evolves. But since Pro XR and Paddletech are kind of under each other, I have a feeling it's always going to be Pro XR is the like experimental side. Like, that's where you would get the foam core, and the Paddletech side is where you're going to keep these kind of Gen 1s. And maybe, you know, the technology maybe eventually evolves into something else. But I have a feeling those are always going to be pretty different.
I feel like I heard Zane say somewhere that he's hit like 60 different prototype paddles.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm sure that their Pro XR is just going to be the like prototype testing ground for all kinds of things.
But yeah, so there will be a slower rollout of some of these newer technologies. Don't know, full release dates on any of these things. Like I said, I hope it's not too long. I hope it's not priced too high because I think they could I think 6-0 could have a second resurgence. Maybe not as big as the first one because they caught the perfect storm in that first one, kind of being early to thermoforming.
Timing was huge.
Yeah, but I think they've got the blocks to set that up.
What do you think? I mean, I would love to say we've already hit it, but I don't think we have. What do you think is our ceiling for a single priced paddle?
Oh, I don't even want to guess because some company is going to be like, here's a $600 paddle. But I don't know what. Here's the thing. I'm sure there's always going to be people who are willing to pay whatever the highest amount is. And I think in pickleball, what we've seen is that if people perceive there is a huge advantage in a paddle, they're willing to pay crazy amounts of money for it. Mm-hmm. The Beta Ripple is a perfect example. On eBay, those were going for a lot of money.
I saw one sold, not listed, sold for $1,600.
Yeah, exactly. See what I mean? And it's so if a brand came out and basically had backed up proof that we've got grit that will literally never wear out, the core will literally never break, and it has some other crazy amount of features, I'm sure someone's willing to pay $500-$600.
What I'm waiting for is I've seen this Padel paddles. It's like partnered with Lamborghini or Louis Vuitton, and then it ended up being like $900 or $1,000. Just waiting for like a pickleball brand to do like a collab with some luxury company, and then it's gonna be a $900 pickleball paddle.
We don't need it to go any higher. It's already so high.
It's too high.
I think to even justify the prices that we have right now, at $300, you should be having grit that lasts a lot longer, cores that last. You shouldn't even be talking about durability.
Yeah.
At that point,
there's too many small issues to be fixed. Like we don't have uniform handles across the board yet.
Yeah.
Right. Like let's fix some of these problems before we, start charging more.
Totally. So yeah, that's pretty much most of the 6-0 factory stuff. I'm going to have a full video out at some point, just kind of about the trip that I think will be kind of fun for people to see. But it was a lot of fun getting to see the behind the scenes, and I think there's more that goes into it than a lot of people think. I think whenever we think about paddles, it's like, super easy to make, guys. But when you see all the components and some of the sourcing that goes into it and the decisions about why this versus that, you're like, okay, this could get complicated really quick. So, I don't know. Thought it was a lot of fun. All right. Kitchen. This is basically just more trip stuff from the...
miscellaneous trip things.
Exactly. First thing. America versus food in Asia. All right. This was really interesting. So like I said, I ate more food than I've ever eaten in a 1 week period in my life. I was stuffed to the brim. Like there were times where I basically felt like I was going to throw up because I ate so much food. But I have never eaten that much and felt overall as good as I did. I don't know how they're cooking their food differently, what oils they're doing. Obviously, we had a lot less processed food than we would in America. There wasn't really a lot of fast food, minus a couple times. But if I ate that amount of food here on a regular American diet, I would feel disgusting. I never felt heavy when I was playing pickleball. I never had, anytime I went to the bathroom and felt really bad, like it was all just, everything was very normal. It's probably the best I've felt stomach-wise or gut-wise in a long time.
A lot less chemicals.
I come home, first day back, I had eaten like maybe one fast food thing, and then for breakfast had like egg, sausage, and maybe one other thing. Dude, I felt my stomach was killing me for like 30 minutes. I was like, dude, what did I eat? Like, it just is crazy. So the food over there, clearly they're doing something better. And it really made me consider how bad, I think I knew how bad the American diet can be with all of our processed food, but now seeing how different I felt, it was very eye-opening. And some of that could have been that there was not a lot of dairy over there. I had some.
Yeah.
But obviously they have less, and I am lactose intolerant, so maybe being away from dairy helped a lot. And it would be really unfortunate if it was the dairy that made me feel so much better, because I love dairy.
Yes.
So
same.
That's going to be a bit of a decision to make.
But here's the thing. I know you. You didn't eat any real Chinese food. You didn't eat anything good. This dude doesn't eat anything that swims. Dude doesn't eat any real food.
The only thing I didn't eat was seafood. That was it.
And you're in China, of all places.
It was great.
And you're not going to eat fish?
Dude, it was seeing some of the fish dishes come by, just like this like fish head just staring at you as it comes around the table.
I saw some pictures. You sent some pictures of food to our family group chat. That one, I think, was it lobster?
I can't even remember. I sent a lot of pictures.
Probably lobster or crab. Dude, it looked incredible. And I already know you didn't even touch it. You sent a couple pictures and said, this is some Isaac food.
Yeah. The one thing I did try, I wasn't going to try it, but the group forced me. We ended up finding this Mexican restaurant, which unironically was the best Mexican food I have ever had. It was crazy.
Hilarious.
It was so good. But they made me try this cricket taco. On paper, sounds disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't taste nearly as bad as I thought it would. Probably not something I would want to consume on the regular, just because I know what it is.
Yep.
But it didn't actually taste bad.
All right.
Right.
I mean, I've eaten crickets before. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it was just...
It's a little weird, but it's not that bad. But you're born with your food, man. This guy is the chicken tenders.
No, it's just seafood.
No.
I tell everyone, this is crazy. In pickleball, I tell people I don't like seafood, and everyone's like, oh, it's the chicken nugget guy. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a child.
Bro won't eat sushi, and if he does, he's going to eat like a California roll.
That's great. Okay, so this story.
Yeah.
The last dinner we had as a group in the 6-0 trip. So we had the factory owner, his wife, who I believe his wife was the one that planned all of this. We hadn't met her until the end of the trip. But then it was me, Braden, David, Aaron, and Brian, Dale, and then Braden's parents. So anyways, we get to this building. Before we leave, the factory owner comes to me and says, hey, bring your camera. I was like, okay. I was like, I've had my camera every step of this trip, but yeah, I'll bring it. So we get there. I'm like, I would see the front of the building. Like, okay, this looks pretty nice. I get inside. I'm like, ooh, this is a really nice restaurant. I was like, okay. And then we go like way deep in this building, and there's like people like pointing where we need to go because clearly they knew our group was coming. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. I was like, seems a little too fancy. Then we're walking down the hall, turn into this room. Boom. Happy birthday signs everywhere throughout this thing. And if people don't know, my birthday was just before this trip. Like as I was leaving for the trip, it was my birthday. And so they knew that, and they just threw like a small little party. So Dale, as we walk in, he goes, just you wait. And I was like, oh no, what am I in for? I was like so nervous. And there's, like I said, the signs everywhere. There's a specific seat for me. And we're all eating food. Everything's normal. Then this cart comes in, and they're like, Chris, go over to the cart, because the people who brought it in didn't speak English. And so I go over there, and basically it was like this giant sushi tower thing, and they had me pour this like hot water in this like hole, and then it like had steam come out of it. Like it was just kind of like a show. Everyone clapped, and like maybe they did a little bit something. And then we all just went back to eating, and I was like, oh, that wasn't that bad. I was like, Dale kind of overblew that. I was like, I've always had this thing growing up where I don't mind celebrating my birthday with some close friends and some family. It doesn't feel weird. But when it's like a big thing with a lot of people, it feels weird having that much attention on you.
I'm with you.
So throughout the thing, I wasn't uncomfortable, but it was just like, okay, like we don't got to make a big deal about this, guys. Like, don't worry about it. And then we get to basically what the end is. I am so full at this point. I can't eat another bite. And then this dude with a karaoke mic, a bunch of signs, and a giant neon LED sign come marching in. And I was like, oh no. I was like, this is what Dale's talking about. So they put like a little crown on my head. They've got this giant neon sign behind me that says some happy birthday things. I went and looked at the clip. People will see this in the full video. I thought this was like 2 minutes of talking and happy birthday. 6 minutes. Imagine, how weird it feels when you're sitting there and people sing happy birthday to you for 30 seconds?
At like an Applebee's.
Imagine that for 6 minutes. And on top of it, so the first like 3 minutes, I've still to this day have no idea what the guy was saying because he was speaking in Chinese. We did have someone who could translate, David's wife, but he was talking and it was loud, so she wasn't going to translate. So I'm just sitting there like, I'm sure you're saying something nice, but I don't know what you're saying. And then after they do all of that, they start singing happy birthday and everyone's like dancing. They had like a whole choreographed dance. I was like, this is too much. I was like, stop. I think I told Dale, I was like, not even our parents have created a top 3 more embarrassing moment in my life. And now I'm not saying it was bad. I think it was very nice of them. It was fun to go through, but it was just like, stop looking at me. Like, I don't know who to smile at, where to look.
6 minutes is a long time. That's a long time.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Dang. Yeah, that I saw some videos on some people's stories or your Instagram story, and it looked hilarious.
Yeah, it was. I definitely, if I was anyone else at that table and it wasn't for me, I would have been laughing at them so hard just because you can feel the embarrassment like coming off of them.
100%. You get like that secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah. And then, okay, so on top of that, there's obviously cake. So I'm going to have some cake. But then they have these noodles. They set this giant bowl of noodles in front of me, and there's like a big egg yolk in it. And then the person, David's wife, was like, okay, I'm going to tell you how this works. She's like, these are longevity noodles. You're supposed to eat these, and it's supposed to be like a birthday thing where basically like you eat them, you live longer, essentially.
Good luck.
So I was like, I can't eat anymore. And she's like, you have to eat the noodles. You have to do this. And I was like, so I eat the whole egg, and I'm like, oh. And then I guess with the noodle, you also aren't supposed to bite through the noodle. So you're supposed to just like slurp the whole noodle and eat it. I got through some noodles. I didn't get through the whole bowl. I don't think I was supposed to go through the whole bowl, but I was just like, dude, I'm going to throw up at my birthday dinner. I was like, stop.
Throw up at a nice restaurant where they just celebrated for 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that looked crazy. I'm just imagining what it was like being there. It looked wild.
Yeah. It was crazy. So big thank you to the factory owner's wife. That was extremely generous. Again, they did not need to do that. That was so much more than was deserved, but it was a very fun experience either way. And now I can say I've celebrated my birthday in China.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, in Shenzhen, which is where we were first, the driving is out of this world insane. I've been in the Dominican, which was also insane. I don't know which I think is more insane, but first of all, there are scooters, like moped scooters everywhere, probably more common than the cars, and everyone's zipping all over the place. Traffic makes no sense. If one person pumped the brakes, everyone's dying. Like, everyone's going to go poof. I was just like, how do people do this? And then here, when I'm driving, sometimes there can be a full car width between the car in front of me and the car behind me, and I'm like, I don't know if I should make that merge. This one's a little tight. It's like I might make someone mad. In China, they will literally be bumper to bumper and force themselves between those two cars.
Yep.
And I'm like, how are you doing this right now? It's
like New York plus.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was crazy. And then, of course, there's people walking around too. So it's just one of the craziest experiences in terms of driving.
Dense cities.
Yeah. And also their EV cars, way nicer than what we have here.
Oh, really?
A lot of the cars we were in were EVs. Their heads-up displays were extremely nice. One of the vans had massage chairs that you sit in. And then I looked at it, I was like, this car's got to be $100+ grand USD. There's no way in the US this would be anything less than $100 grand. It was like 50. And I'm not saying 50 is cheap for a car. That's expensive for a car. But with how car prices are these days, that's not outrageous for a van that has massage seats in it.
Yeah, like a luxury van.
Yeah.
Dude. I mean, this is just like a lot of Asian countries. China and specifically Japan, I'm thinking of. Technology-wise, so far ahead of us.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. I just saw a video the other day of a road system in either China, I think it was Japan, where they have like a water system that shoots spurts of water out across the road to like, there's something special in the water to like break up ice and snow on the road. So
Oh, wow.
it like clears the road by itself.
Oh, that's sweet.
Why don't we have that here?
Yeah. Well, speaking of that and technology, so when we were at the Hong Kong airport, we had to go through customs, we had to go through security, we had to do all this. I think I dealt with a person one time at security, but otherwise I didn't even really need my passport. It was all a face scan. I was like, there's no way this works. I walk up to this thing, take my hat off, it scans my face, opens the gate, walk right through. I was like, that was way too easy.
That sounds awesome.
It was crazy.
That's awesome.
It was very cool.
Here's the thing. I'm a very social person. I'm definitely an extrovert. But when it comes to being out in public and just traveling and stuff, I am antisocial. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't want to see nobody. Don't interact with me. Like when I go get food at places, if I can not talk to a human, great.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want. That is my dream.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But then, so after all that, we had a couple free days in Hong Kong. So, because that's where we flew out of. So we went back to Hong Kong, and this guy, Simon, who I've known of, I've seen him online. He's met Will before. We've maybe exchanged some messages, but we'd never met.
Sure.
And so he heard we were coming, and he was like, oh, I can give you all the tips about where you should go, what you should do. We can even get some pickleball. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. And then I had asked him one day, I said, right before the trip, maybe a week before, I said, hey, I really haven't had any time to figure out things to do. Like, you've given me a lot of advice on like what not to do and etiquette and all these things. I was just like, would you mind just giving me some ideas of like places I should go and see? Bro shoots us back a full-blown itinerary, and he's like, I'll take you to all the places. Like, here's all the best food places. Here's where you got to go see. We'll go to pickleball in this park. We'll go to pickleball in this place. And I was like, dude, that is way more than I was asking for. I was expecting you just to tell me where to go, not to be my full-blown tour guide.
Yeah.
Super, super nice guy. So we get to Hong Kong, and we meet this guy. They take us out to, lunch. Immediately, it feels like all of us have been friends for years. And I think that is one of the coolest things about pickleball is how quickly you can become friends with people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bantering was immediate. Like, the jokes were right away. And we were joking on this trip. Simon is like me looking in a mirror when I'm going to be his age. That guy is exactly like me, just a little bit more crass than I am. Like, maybe some jokes that I'm like, that's maybe a little
does
too
he
far
have the
from
dump
me.
truck?
Doesn't quite have that.
Yeah.
But
See, that's no one else has got that.
Personality-wise, same person. We could be twins. He could be my dad.
How old is he?
48.
Okay. All right. You got a little ways to go.
I think people started joking, like Brian, Aaron were like, man, I don't know if we can do with two Chris's much longer. It was a lot. I'll admit, the banter got to a point where I love it. But I was like, not everyone likes this.
Yeah.
It was very high. So, him, his wife, Phoebe, and then I think business partner, Jeff. So they own a facility in Hong Kong called Stacked. And this was really cool. Basically, there was this giant mall, and the pickleball facility is in the mall. It only has 3 courts. It's like very intimate. But one thing that's really cool is there's a window that you can see the first court. And since not a lot of people have seen pickleball in Hong Kong yet, when you're playing on that court, people are just stopping and filming because they have no idea what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd have this whole like audience at the window watching you play pickleball. It was very cool.
Yeah.
Look,
that place looked really nice.
it was very nice for such a small facility, like very well decorated. They had like warm towels, they had drinks everywhere. It was I would say one of the coolest facilities I have been to. I wouldn't want every facility to be that small. Obviously, they'd be booked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was a very cool experience, and I think for being at the mall, it's perfect. You get they kind of threw a party one night just for all of us being in town, and so a bunch of people came out to meet us. And I think having only 3 courts where everyone's watching and kind of like cheering, having a good time, is just a very different vibe than what we normally have here for U.S. courts.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool. Had a blast with them. They were awesome tour guides. I look forward to hanging out with them more in the future. And just being around Hong Kong, if anyone's going to go to Asia, start with Hong Kong.
Yeah.
It's super easy to get around. Everyone speaks English. Food is awesome. Transportation's easy. Like, there's just nothing wrong with Hong Kong. I loved it.
All right.
Great trip. Great trip. Also, I have one last little story I want to tell.
Yeah. What's up with this? I'm reading this. I'm like,
one of the funniest things. So they're taking us around Hong Kong, just showing us food, showing us different spots. We get to this bridge. And they're like, do you hear that? And all you hear is this quack, 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 quack. I was like, okay. And they're like, well, we'll tell you about this. They're like, so basically, you can go up to these people and you can give them a picture of a person. And basically, what they do is you can pay them a small amount of money and they will take the picture and they'll say like all these curses in Chinese, and then they take their slipper and just beat the crap out of the picture. So like if there is someone you just hate, like people pay these people for people they hate to just like beat a picture of them and curse them. So of course I had pictures of you and all our friends and said, curse their duper for me. Curse their duper.
You just screenshot of the duper and you just have them smack. That would have been such a funny video if you did that.
No, even funnier.
Oh my gosh.
I almost did this. I because I couldn't print a picture, I didn't, but I was I was going to screenshot the weather back home and have them curse the weather.
Oh my gosh, that would have been so funny. This is so much, I don't know where this is, but I saw a video of it. There's a business where it is a like clay sculpting place, and you give them a picture of a person, whether it's someone you don't like or an ex or whatever, right? And they make a clay sculpture of their face, and then you go there and you can punch it, beat it, like whatever you want to do to it and just destroy this face. It's the same thing, but you get to do it instead of having somebody else do it.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Yeah, I was very taken back. I was like, wow, I never would have thought that was a thing here.
Imagine people like, hey, what's your job? I'm the slipper whack curse.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was this is pretty cool. But overall, extremely fun trip. After seeing pickleball in Asia, I really want to go to Vietnam and Malaysia now and see what it's like over there, because it feels like what pickleball was a couple years ago in the US. You're kind of getting to re-experience that, and the level of excitement and passion for pickleball is so high, and everyone's having such a good time. Yeah, I definitely want to get out.
Yeah, definitely got to go to Vietnam. That's the next place for sure.
Totally. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything.
Well, real quick, I actually just want to jump in here and go completely off topic for a second and give like a little update on because we posted a little update video of the Arma and crunching, but I just wanted to give a little bit of perspective from my side of actually hitting it, because I saw some people ask like, oh, I would have liked to hear, Isaac's thoughts while he was using it. So if you guys haven't seen it, we posted while he was gone in China, I was using the Arma T. And I hit with it for about a week, probably even less, honestly, because I would use it for a few games and switch to a different paddle, because it was constant complaints from everyone I played against. Because
that you were using the Arma?
Yeah, because it was hitting so hard, even before it was broken. And so about less than 10 hours, I'd probably put it a little bit of 8 hours, between 8 and 9 hours of play. And it is a potato chip bag. It is crunchy, and it's loud. So this paddle is probably... like, we're seeing the Black Ace get delisted and relisted and all this stuff. Like, those paddles are nothing compared to the Arma. All paddles I've played with that is a problem paddle, the Arma is got to be near the top. Mod is probably above it, and then just below is the Arma. Like, it is the most absurd paddle I've ever played with. I played against two friends of mine who are 5-0 and 5-5, and I had like 8 aces in a row. Not like true aces where they missed the ball, but they're just missing return after return after return. And all of a sudden, it's like we're 2 minutes into the game and it's 8-0.
Yeah.
It's like that should never happen. I should not be able to hit a serve that fast where 5-0, 5-0, or 5-5 plus guys cannot actually return the ball. Yeah. And so, like, I've never hit some of the most insane drives I've ever hit, dipping and speed. It's insane. And then, obviously, once it broke, it was just even worse, and it was a cannon. Like I said, every group that I played with this paddle and pulled it out, it was instant whining and complaining and sighing, like, please use something else. And so I just question, like, how on earth did this get approved? Like, it just makes no sense. We've seen be cut open. The cores are coming out compressed, brand new paddles. That's just like the mod. We've seen that slip through before with the mod, but PB core is supposed to kind of combat that and seek that stuff out. Sure, mine could be an anomaly, but we all predicted this. Looking at the x-rays, looking at how it's constructed, we immediately brought up concerns. And then sure enough, mine breaks. I've heard other people's breaking. Like, it's not just a coincidence that just mine broke.
Yeah, right. I think what's going to be interesting about this, so I have my thought going into it when I was trying to piece some of this together. So after ours broke and hearing some of the durability claims that they were having with theirs, is that smaller batches, I just wonder if some of the, like, maybe the cores weren't compressed because things were being done a little bit properly. So that would think back to the mod last year. You had people who could kill one in a week. Sometimes you had people that were a month plus. And I think some of that difference was the QC between those paddles. Like, how broken was the core at the factory level? So maybe in the early stages they had ones that were fine. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that every single reviewer who talked about it and cut one open was like, yeah, look, it's crushed. The x-rays don't look good. So it wasn't, I don't think, a very hard prediction to guess that it was going to break. And now I will say, BK did comment on the Instagram post, and he said he has a lot of hours on his, and his is still going, which makes me wonder how much there's a QC thing going on with like how compressed they are. But regardless,
it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. And I think it's exactly what everyone thought it was going to be, which is, yeah, it'll probably have some issues.
Right.
But going back to your point you were saying about, how does something like this pass? I think when we were at the USAP Media Day, this is kind of one of the things that we were harping on there was a paddle can pass PB core. Maybe you have a perfectly constructed paddle and it passes PB core. But now once you have paddles that are constructed maybe with a little less QC or they just will break easy, this is the problem because how many do you have to see or hear breaking before you go, yes, there's a problem. We need to take this off the market. And that's why I think if there was some type of break-in testing, you at least have the chance to catch this and go, you know what? It's actually breaking a lot quicker than we would have thought. Like either you guys might want to reconsider this or we're going to tell you no because it broke in too quickly. So that's the problem with this is it doesn't really pull paddles out that still can break.
Well, and we've seen this with other companies before where you can make a batch of 15 or 20 paddles and a batch that small, the QC is going to be way higher. It's going to be easier to make them better, higher tolerances. And maybe that's the paddle that Martin was given and he used for 80 hours. Yeah. And it was, one of those prototype paddles that was made in a small batch and then said, hey, this is great. Ramp it up into full production. Yeah. And then now could be the factory cutting corners again or doing this or whatever. And then now we've got durability problems. And that batch of good paddles were sent in for testing and sure those passed. Yep. But now all the actual production model market paddles are going to be breaking. So it's just a thing where I'm like, okay, this paddle's crazy. It has high performance. If you're a banger, you're going to love this. Like, if I wanted to go win a game, I'm probably going to grab this paddle and I'm just going to blast through people. But I can't recommend it to people because it's like, okay, yours might break in a week, might break in 2 weeks. And it's like, sure, it's a great paddle and people are still going to buy it anyways. That's the problem I have is like, I don't want to recommend this to people because it's just going to be the next mod. Mm-hmm. And I just don't like that.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see how it shakes out. Give it probably, I'd say, a month and a half from now, we'll probably have a pretty clear picture of how many of these are going in and out, right? Because people will have had them for a while. We'll probably hear more reports if there's issues. So I'm very curious to see where it goes. And it's such a shame because I think the way that paddle feels and the way it plays when it's brand new is awesome. Like I think it would have been a paddle I probably would have recommended very highly if it weren't for the durability issues.
One of the biggest sweet spots for not only a 14 millimeter, but also like a Gen 3 paddle. I mean, just massive sweet spot.
And you liking it for a 14 is
crazy.
Not common.
Not common at all. Like it was just crazy. So I've never seen that much foam put in a paddle before. Yeah. Like for a foam ring around the edge. It was wild. So, and now going on Gen 3 paddles, I've seen a few friends of mine here who play with Yolas who've broken multiple Pro 4s now.
Oh, we have some now?
Yep.
That have
one guy, one friend of mine who I'm going to partner with for an upcoming challenger, he's broken a couple Pro 4s. Okay. He just had one that started crunching now.
Sure.
Another one. So seeing those break more often now as well. I'm sure those, like, again, it could just be, Yola ran a bad batch, and those ones are breaking in multiple people's hands. Yeah. So,
well, and again, there's such an interesting line too. Like, I haven't figured out what the thought process should be here. I think in the most ideal world, no paddle should really break in any hands. But of course, any piece of equipment over time will break down, right? Like nothing is good until the end of time in terms of a sporting equipment that's being beat up every day. But the issue I'm starting to have is you could have pros are almost like a bad example in some ways because they hit so hard. They're always hitting the center. They play so often that of course they're going to cook through paddles where, like, let's say you have a pro and they can break a paddle in a week or two. Well, how does that translate to a 3.5? Maybe they get 3, 4, 6 months out of it, right? Like I think it's good to see early concern, but I have almost no doubt that a pro can break pretty much any paddle.
Yeah.
Even whatever the most durable thing out there is, they'll probably find something that they say, oh, this developed a dead spot, or this feels weird when I do this. Like, so nothing is really immune in their hands. So it's kind of finding that balance of like, what should the expectation be for durability with these people?
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah. Not really sure. So just an interesting little update there on the Arma and some Gen 3 paddles, because as much as I would have loved that one to be durable, kind of knew it wasn't going to be.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but just wanted you guys to know and get a little insight on how that looked.
Cool.
So with that.
Yeah. Sounds good, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.